Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of An Astrologer's Calling, where we talk to your famous astrologers or perhaps astrologers that you're not so familiar with. And in this episode, I'm really excited to introduce Hakan Kırkog, who's a leading international astrologer from Turkey. I first met Hakan in Istanbul earlier this year and then at the astrological conference back in August. So it's lovely to catch up with him again. So Hakan is a consultant, a teacher, a writer, and his list of achievements is incredible. So I'm just going to capture some key points in this introduction. But if you want to know more, please head over to his website. So here's a few achievements. So with Friends, he pioneered the establishment of the Astrological Association in Turkey back in 2000. He runs the internationally recognized Wisdom of Sky Astrology School, which is among the ISAR affiliated schools. He wrote the first Turkish psychological astrology book back in 1991. He was a prize winner of the Faculty of Astrological Studies. He's lectured at numerous international conferences in the UK, USA, Australia, Poland, Serbia, and he's been a mundane astrology coordinator and course speaker at UAC. And then, along with personal and corporate consultations, he writes mundane and financial astrology articles in international journals. And the list goes on and on. Okay.
Hi, Leanne.
Hi, thank you so much for joining me today, Harkin. So
Yeah.
I'm
I thank you very much for you because you do a very how can I say necessary thing actually for our astrologers because we are a community and we have lots of stories to share.
yeah,
And I seen many of your lectures, I mean, of your these interviews.
yeah,
And for me, for also other astrologers, astrology is like a calling.
mhm,
It is not something that I want to be an astrologer, but rather uh, astrology become us maybe, or we
yeah,
become astrologers in a way that it is something in my life always I see there is a secret calling since my maybe childhood. Of course, I was not aware of that. So I thank you again for this work, and I think this series of videos, maybe in the end you can have a book on it, maybe. Uh,
wow, what a great idea. Wow,
because
yeah,
yeah, it is because people normally we astrologers we don't talk about ourselves, our lives, and usually the outside world look at astrologers always as if they are certain creatures,
yeah,
certain aliens,
yes,
and people who are out of establishment. But of course, we are human beings,
yeah,
and surely, and then we have lives as well to talk
yeah,
about, to share with also. And also, I see that it is also good to have these stories for students of astrology
yeah,
because how astrologers become I mean, how a person become an astrologer and maybe of course uh, for me, for example, I would say I am a slow cooked astrologer. Slow cooked astrologers that in my first times, I mean first years, because I began to astrology, it was 80s, 83
mhm,
exactly speaking. I was alone in Istanbul. I was lonely, a lone wolf. I didn't have even an ephemeris. But in the more, I mean, now people, there are lots of information,
mhm,
lots of
yeah,
connection. So now, for example, what I see sometimes too much information and
mhm,
too speedy information
Mhm.
actually harm us in a way that we don't, because I'm a slow cooked astrologer.
Yeah, yeah.
I was gradually become and get on this career, let's say, on this path. I can say first, and thank you very much.
No, thank you. No, you're absolutely right there. There's so much information out there, and students can just get interpretations at the click of a button on the
Yeah.
on off the internet. But I don't think that necessarily teaches them how to interpret for themselves. And there's so much to be said for life experience, watching how astrology manifests in reality for people on a personal level, a mundane level. And that can take years to watch and observe and
And also to
assimilate it all.
digest, you need to
Yeah,
digest, you need
yeah,
time, and you need
yeah, yeah,
years of experience.
yeah.
Usually, I see in my students or some other students, because I do examinations for
Mm,
students, and
mhm,
I also listen them, and I give them chance to make seminars,
mhm,
for example, for 30-minute seminars in the end of the program. So the first thing I come across, I mean, I see, of course, they are very excited, but they don't concentrate on. They are very fast. They are always going somewhere, because the chart is 360 degrees, a circle, and they lose themselves
yeah.
in the horoscope. And always try to tell them, slow down, concentrate. Even you can talk about many things, even concentrating on a planet and a sign and a house, this
Mhm,
typical trio. But of course, maybe this is a pressure. Maybe they feel themselves
mm,
under pressure, that
yeah.
they have to immediately, at once, they have to, show themselves in a very okay thing. But actually, I always suggest them to write their reports. I mean, write, if they are doing a horoscope interpretation. I ask them to write down. So it is more concrete and
Yeah.
more, in a way, more disciplined way of, because
Mhm.
always there needs to be a discipline first, and then you may flow with the chart with this discipline.
Yeah, yeah. No, I totally agree about stripping it back because I even now sometimes I'll sort of look at a new chart and it's like being in a sweet shop, isn't it? It's so exciting. But you train yourself to focus on like key points such as an angular planet, or an unaspected planet or something like that. And I always tell my students to just go back to basics. For example, look at the moon phase. You could give a whole seminar just on the moon phase in a natal
Oh, yes,
chart. Like we were saying before I
yeah,
pressed record at the beginning, talking
yeah,
about
yeah.
someone who's got a new moon in their chart or a
Because
full moon.
normally, even with a client, because I do sessions with I mean, many years. So uh, you probably have to cover the many basic parts of the chart, not the midpoints thing or
Yeah.
harmonic charts. Yes, I can do it. I mean, theoretically, I can look at and then to make an investigation
Mhm.
also in midpoints or some other techniques. But usually we try to the heart of the chart. We need
Mhm.
to try to capture the heart. And of course, there are always different layers of
Mhm.
ourselves as
Yeah.
well. So this is something for me, astrology, of course, a calling. Uh, for example, 40 years is quite long period of time. I mean, because when I started 83, as I said, in Turkey, there was a magazine which is called Sun Sign magazine,
Mhm.
an astrology magazine, and it was just one magazine, and then it was I think from 1980 they started to publish this magazine. I was in astrology in 83. So what I did, I collected all back issues of this magazine, but of course I didn't have any ephemeris and even the table of houses. I mean, what I was doing, for example, because Gülten Suveren, she was the lady who was the astrologer of the magazine, a lady, who probably, as far as I know, learned astrology in America,
Mhm.
and then probably she had come to Turkey, had returned back to Turkey in the maybe late 70s. And then for me, of course, she was a great. I mean, I remember it was because I also wrote down in the same magazine many years later, uh, in starting from 89. Anyway, so what I was doing actually, she was casting horoscopes and then she was replying to the clients. I mean, not the clients, but the readers. She
Yeah.
was interpreting the charts of the readers. And then I was collecting these charts to make a catalog of the planet's positions, a
Yeah.
sort of ephemeris. I mean,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
a ephemeris, correct ephemeris. Of course, it
Yeah.
was not correct because the planets goes retrograde, not very regular.
Yeah.
But sort of more or less, I was trying to do at this first stage. I call it my archaic period, archaic, very very old, megalithic. Later on, then I was able to get my first ephemeris from England, uh, not of course with Amazon.com, but ordering, because there was one of the major bookshops in Istanbul. They were able to get the book from UK. So I ordered my first Raphael ephemeris.
Mhm.
I remember, very, I was so excited,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
I have an ephemeris, I have tables of houses, now I can do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So those were the days.
Yeah, and I remember getting my first ephemeris ever, and it was actually second hand. It's very
Yeah,
old. It was second
exactly.
hand off Amazon, and just being so excited, because I could sit and look through this for hours. I just
Yeah,
love
yeah.
looking at positions of the. It still feels magical. It's just something
It is,
magical.
it is, it is. Well, I always, when I look at the ephemeris pages, especially the future periods, I
Yeah,
mean, future
yeah,
years,
yeah.
it is something that there is something very secret in these
Mhm.
years. And but normally, actually, this feature, the pages for the next years, always there is a sort of unknown thing, of
Yeah.
course. We can only understand today, actually, it is,
Mhm.
we can always look at from this point of time. It always, our look at the years always change as well.
Mm. Yeah.
And my story, maybe I can tell you that it would be in four parts. The first part is this archaic years, megalithic
Yeah.
period. It
Yeah.
is from 83 to 89.
Mhm.
Uh, but 89, I began to write also for this horoscope magazine. And then for me, it was something, it affected my identity, because during that time I was doing my MA degree in
Hmm.
economics. But in the meantime, all I was writing for this magazine, I was writing a series of writings on how to interpret a birth chart.
Hmm.
But also I was learning as well. I mean, I was
Yeah.
writing, but also I was learning, you know. And then I was reading books on, you know, at that time I had several books. For example, Jeff Mayo's
Hmm.
How to, I mean, it was a small book, a bluish book, small one.
I've,
Maybe
yeah.
you might have as well. So Jeff Mayo, this one, yes, exactly. And
It's all
in
you did.
shambles, I know. I have the same. Yeah, yeah, I have the same.
Yeah.
My first book also, not my, I didn't, I wrote my first book later, but this is the first book that I read in Turkish. It is starting from 83.
Right.
So so I put it in a cover,
Yeah.
you know, in
Yeah.
order to protect it. So it is a book on Sheila Geddes or Geddes. Anyway, so Jeff Mayo was one of the books. Also Margaret Hahn,
Hmm.
The Modern Textbook of Astrology. Then later on, I discovered Parker's book, the
Yeah.
big book, and Ellen Oken's book,
Yeah.
Complete Astrologers. And I was devouring, I was eating, you know, just all this stuff. But of course, I was doing, you know, I got a management engineering degree in the bachelor's degree, but also I did an MA degree in economics. But I didn't have any idea that I would become an astrologer. Up until you know, my second period from 89 to, I would say, 99. 99, there was the conference in Plymouth in UK,
Mhm.
the Eclipse conference. And this was the first conference that I attended. Also, I spoke, gave a lecture. I was so nervous. I mean, I was zero. I mean, of course, not zero, but I was so, you know, fresh, let's
Yeah. Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
And I was, you know, well, I mean, during that time also, okay, um, starting from, okay, I began to write to the journal, and then up until 99, in the winter of 94, I applied to Faculty of Astrological Studies, not to become a student, but to become a tutor, actually. I was so, you know, ambitious, or I mean,
Yeah.
I was saying that, you know, because I was very, I was in depression in banking, because I began to, you know,
Mm.
starting from 93, I worked as a banker, and then, but I saw immediately that the banking was not for me, or I
Mhm.
was not for banking
Yeah.
either way. I mean, so I decided to take, I decided to become an astrologer. I mean, and also tutor. But of course, there is a Saturn principle. Of course, you know, everything has a season, everything has a time to do it.
Mhm.
So my journey began with the faculty, and then I took examinations for 3 years. In 3 years' time, I finished my diploma 97. And then I was able to leave banking in year 2000, just after this eclipse conference. The
Yeah.
eclipse affected me a lot.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, it was a grand cross. There was a
Mhm.
grand cross. And one of the, I think Saturn was in Taurus, and then affecting, because I'm an Aquarian, so it was making a square aspect to my both sun and moon. So it was a period very forming my, everything was kind of a little bit destined in our lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
Always, you always need to wait for the time.
Yeah.
If it is,
Yeah.
I don't know what do you think about this? I mean, how do you uh, normally as an astrologer, I try to empower my clients. I mean,
Hmm.
I try to help them to have to make good decisions for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because it is the only way that we can help. We cannot exactly predict, but we may give the whole thing, the whole, how can I mean, how can I say, possibilities, let's say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Mm.
and then depending on their nature, because um, of course we are not our best version, of course, and we couldn't, I mean, it is not possible, I mean, try to always the best version of ourselves, but I think an astrological consultation would or could be good for at least to have an idea of the best version of ourselves
Yeah.
in a way. But it is, of course, not possible for the client to admit that they can go in their own authentic or in their true selves.
Yeah.
Uh, for me, this period that I wanted to become a tutor, it was too much. I mean, of course, they told me that I need to take the exams, and I completed in 3 years time. And later on with this because I was at that time also in my secondary progressions, I was having this second progress new moon in my
Mm.
chart
Hmm.
in Pisces, in the 10th house in my chart.
Hmm.
So this was again, everything has its own time
Yeah.
thing in terms of our lives. So I left banking in year 2000. And then I also, after 17 years of practice, actually, uh, after because I started at 83, 83. So after 17 years, I found myself as a professional astrologer. And in that time, also in Turkey, we didn't have much this concept, professional astrologer.
Mhm.
For me, as I see that because I'm a human person, I think all this happened to me, that I became a vessel for or
Yeah.
agent for this change in Turkey. I mean, I was the first one who applied for an international diploma. I mean,
Hmm.
the faculty diploma, I would say, for me. And then I set up my own school in Turkey, which is called Wisdom of Sky. Uh, so, and I'm changing. Of course, I have been changing every period. I mean, I starting from 2010. I became more traditional astrologer. I mean, I tended to become, I mean, more aware of the necessities,
Yeah.
because when you work with the clients, yes, psychological astrology is very good to
Mm.
describe the events and to tell them in a gentle manner, in a empathic way, and
Yeah.
we need this empathy, of course. But some other techniques, some traditional techniques, I saw that uh, they can be worked out, they can be utilized along with the psychological astrology. So
Yeah.
mine also, my astrology actually is a synthesis of this journey, because I started with the psychological astrology, and now, of course, I am more in the Hellenistic astrology, but in my client work, I do a fine balance between
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, I love that concept. of integrating the different schools of astrology and the different traditions. And
Yes.
I think being open to synthesizing techniques like that is absolutely wonderful, rather than closing ourselves off to possibilities. But going back to what you said about that, you had that progressed new moon in Pisces in the 10th house, and you said you almost were an agent of change or a vessel for seeding sort of astrology
Yes.
internally.
Yes. Yes.
That's so beautiful. And those progressed new moons are such important, pivotal signposts, points in our journey.
Yeah, well,
Always.
it was not only a new moon, but also because I have Pluto and Uranus in Virgo,
Mm,
and this new moon in just opposition to this
mm, yeah.
Uranus Pluto conjunction.
Yeah, yeah,
So it was very transforming. It
yeah.
was kind of because okay, let me say one thing about as well because okay, I am very also probably that uh, I do a lot. I work a lot on prenatal eclipse charts
Yeah,
and lunations. And
yeah,
these are actually very essential for understand the major layers of our personality, of our lives.
yeah.
So I have, for example, okay, I am a fixed, Aquarius is a fixed sign, okay, and because both my sun and moon in Aquarius, so it is, but fortunately I have Gemini ascendant because it adds some mutability.
Yeah.
But uh, what I was saying that this fixed signs, for me, because when I left banking, Uranus was on my sun and moon,
Mhm.
almost exactly. So I needed to have a very, very big Uranus experience. But also, this progression as well was
Mhm.
opposing my Uranus and Pluto. So there were too much Uranus, and then that much Uranus only affected me because I am not a person who change decision every time. If
Mhm.
I stick to something because it's a fixed sign thing,
Yeah.
I'm still in astrology and I'm still doing astrology. So it is kind of there's a fixedness about myself.
Mhm.
And but of course, for me, after my education, I mean, my professional education, actually, I graduated from a very nice universities. I got very nice degrees. I got a management engineering, and then I got an MA degree in economics. I was because I was very I didn't have any question mark about myself that I would be any question mark about banking or but I mean my life of course there is something some free will but also this free will coincided with all these transits and progressions.
Yeah.
So astrology is always, yes, we are free, but also we are a little bit restricted, or we are pattern. We have a pattern. This pattern,
Yeah.
the natal chart itself,
Yeah.
always have say in our life. So
Yeah.
uh, my approach always try to understand these patterns when I do a consultation with a client. I always likened it as if what is we are cooks, we are at the kitchen, we have different ingredients and
Hmm.
materials, but it ups to us which what we are doing, what we are
Yeah.
cooking. It depends on us,
Mhm.
so we have of course a free will, but the we are not sometimes very aware of our patterns. So my
Yeah.
style is this. I would say.
Yeah.
And in the end, I am, as I said, I am more inclined to incorporate these prenatal charts, eclipse charts, and some other. I like to ponder on fate and free will,
Hmm.
because the clients also they are asking this kind of questions. They
Yeah.
ask me honestly, Mr. Hakan, do you believe in free will? They in Turkey, because there is a tendency to be a little bit more faithful,
Yes.
you know, because it's a, this is not a Western country.
Hmm.
And in our culture, there are strong elements of faitedness,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is okay, but my role as an astrologer always try to balance this fate and free will
Yeah.
dilemma, let's say.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's a really interesting discussion because I'm on the same page. So I think we do have free will, but I do think we have there's an element of destiny, and I think we all have a journey that's described in our natal chart and then the progressions and the transits that will impact it. And I do think we have a story and a journey mapped out for us, but we have the free will about which paths we take or which fork in the road that we take,
Yeah,
which will give us the experience we need in order to keep evolving and moving to the next stage. But I think whichever fork in that path we take, I think we'll always
yeah.
kind of still
It's
come
like,
back to the same journey, the same story, the same themes that are mapped out in that natal chart. So, and I think the destiny is a beautiful idea that we're born into this life with some form of destined journey, you know? It's quite
yeah,
magical.
well, we usually discover these, for me, it was after maybe when I was 45, after 50 years old, in our 30s, usually we are in the battle of life and we can't look within ourselves much.
Yeah.
So we have careers, we are ambitious, but you after this midlife crisis in
Mm.
astrology, it's between 40 45.
Yeah.
So the things begin to change, to go in deeper, to there
Yeah.
is a way to go, and then a frank assessment of ourselves. This Uranus opposition, Uranus
Mm-hmm.
period, because I got Uranus in Virgo, so I had, I mean, I adored these times when Uranus in Pisces. I learned a lot of things, because I learned that we cannot label life with very firm sticks, but we need to be fluent
Mm-hmm.
Pisces, and we need to be more, I mean, leave, letting ourselves to be,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because Virgo always brings some rules and some category. You need to do this to do. Yes, that's okay. That's fine. But with Pisces, I was able to understand myself more naturally. That actually I was very in spiritual matters, because as an Aquarian, of course, in a way, maybe I would say I did an engineering degree and economics, all very materialistic stuff and all very with rules and,
Mm.
regulations, whatever. But later on, then I was able to discover more about myself
Yeah.
in my 40s. And then I see that I am not much very free. Well, all this story I saw that I was not very free. And then this is why I was very interested in more in Hellenistic astrology, because
Yeah.
there we usually discuss the part of fortune,
Hmm.
part of spirit. Even I wrote a book on it, Fortune and Intention. So still in Turkish, but probably it would be also in English in later years.
Hmm.
So this is my story of maybe for every other astrologer, I mean, for students of astrology, we are becoming ourselves. We are becoming, and sometimes it is not only our story, but also others' story, because
Yeah.
uh, a person is not an island.
No.
So we
Yeah.
become ourselves, and it is not only with me, only related with me, but also with maybe some Turkey. It is a story on sometimes very individual, but would be some connections with larger teams.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
and I think on a sort of bigger scale, we're all connected by some
yes, yeah.
invisible energies or strings, whatever, and everything we do ripples out and impacts someone else somewhere somehow. We're all connected. It's as above, so below, the
Yeah, yeah.
micro, the macro. Um, and yeah, and I just love what you're saying as you grow older and more mature, the self-awareness that you gain and you understand yourself more and are perhaps more forgiving and tolerant of yourself. You accept the light and the
Especially
shadow.
after 50, after Chiron return.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. And you get to the point where this is who I am. If you don't like it, I don't really care. This is
Acceptance
who
of
I am.
yourself. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite liberating. It's liberating, definitely.
it
But
is.
it's not, it can sometimes be quite a process getting to that point.
It's
So
yeah. Well, maybe if I could have the possibility, if God knows, but I would like to write my own autobiography. I
yeah,
mean, not only me, but also whole astrologist thing. This is something that I keep maybe for if possible. I don't know, of course,
yeah,
but I would love to write on this. But as I see, if we come today now, the life is so fast. And as we
yeah,
talked earlier, everything is very fast. And people, they like to learn astrology fast.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I don't believe in crash courses. I mean, what I believe, as I said, I believe in time. I believe in experience, and then I believe in these personal stories that
yeah,
you are. I thank you again. You are putting our stories with other people. I mean, come together with other
yeah,
people, and as of today. Uh, as we mature, of course, after 50 years old, after Chiron return, of course, it is very cliche, but we see that we are mortal beings.
yeah, yeah.
We are mortals. And then the time becomes even more dear and
Mhm.
more, precious.
Yeah,
So this is why sometimes I feel how I'm going to write down all the books that I am planning. I mean, to write. It is
I know.
people always, and the technology, this artificial intelligence again, maybe pressure us to become more fast,
Yeah,
maybe. But I again here, I think we need a fine balance between the
yeah,
technology and our experience,
yeah,
because usually, for example, recently I was asking ChatGPT some questions on zodiacal releasing method.
yeah.
He got or she got immediately, but always making errors.
Yeah,
Just you
yeah.
need to educate it.
Yes.
Maybe my take is that maybe in 10 years time, everybody can have a special particular artificial intelligence material which they can train themselves.
Yeah, yeah. Customized, customized for
Yes,
ourselves. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So this is the thing that our life, I mean, there is, I feel this pressure on me because people, they ask these applications, these programs, artificial programs, intelligence programs. But as again, I tell my students, slow down,
Mhm. Mhm.
concentrate,
Yeah,
and meditate on a
yeah,
chart,
yeah,
not just go in rush in
yeah.
things.
Yeah, I love that meditate on a chart. There is something divinatory about reading a chart. And I still love printing a chart and writing notes at the side of the chart and
That,
feeling the chart. Yeah, yeah, I'm all for that. Anyway, tell me what a typical working day or working week would look like for
yeah.
you, Hakan.
Uh, I am, for the last couple of years, I am doing a consultation only one or two in a week time, not
Mhm.
much. Because usually I prepare more or less 1 hour for a client,
Mhm.
a pre-work.
Yeah.
So, and also I maybe my consultations a little bit longer than the standard. I mean, it would be 3 hours
Wow.
easily.
Yeah,
If
wow.
because I like to maybe talk about astrology. I mean, with a client when they have also many questions, and I also, especially in my many early years, I was talking mythological stories in my client work.
Yeah.
I was used to talk, not just, some people would talk maybe briefly, and but maybe it's my fault. I mean, I'm making it much longer and longer. So usually I do two clients, I mean, maximum in a week.
Yeah.
Uh, some years ago, before pandemics, every weekend I was teaching astrology in my office here. And whole weekend, actually, whole weekend, Saturday,
Mhm.
Sunday, all my life spent on teaching astrology in my classes. But now it is, I make some, how can I say, a combination of online education with the this live things.
Yeah.
So my life spent usually on my students, with my students, uh, and as I say, I try to write more astrology books. For me, writing books is a good way to become concentrate mentally on something, and I feel more secure myself.
Yeah.
You see Aquarius stuff. Mentally, I feel more secure when I concentrate on something.
Yeah.
So writing books for me, and in my free time, again, I am still discovering something about charts and astrology,
Yeah.
or and reading lots of astrology books. In recent years, also, I got a second MA degree in history on the history of astrology. I mean, these chief astrologers in the Ottoman period in the 18th century.
Yeah.
So I am also in the history of astrology, history of science. Always makes me happy. This
Yeah.
kind of mental works.
Always learning,
Um,
always learning. Yeah. Yeah.
al- always learning.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I love that. I always think the more I learn, the more I realize how little I actually know. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And then what I see that we need to be simple
Yeah.
and concise.
Yeah.
I mean, as I said, I am sometimes going too much about mythological or stories or some other details. But in the end, of course, I always tell this to myself. Uh, I say that, after after a consultation, maybe I would say, okay, I should be more concise, more simple, but usually this again takes time.
Yeah.
Uh, probably it was the Leonardo da Vinci's statement that, you know, the most advanced thing is simpleness,
Yeah.
when you go into the core of the things. But sometimes it is not easy to be that simple because
No.
you need to convey it, you need to make it more understandable, or you need to express
Yeah.
it in different terms.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is, I always try mentally in my astrology work to be as if we we need to look at the trees, but also not to lose the picture, the big
Yeah.
picture, the
Yeah.
forest.
Absolutely. And less is more. Less is more
Yes,
so
less is
often.
more,
Yeah. Less
but
is more.
but it is not that easy.
No,
Exactly,
it's
you
not.
can't go. I mean, it's kind of a quantum problem. I mean, it's a
Yes.
quantum dilemma.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is life itself like this every time. We are living in a polarity in this world.
I know it's always a challenge. So I'm sure you've got millions of funny or sort of really interesting transit stories or
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, this, thank you very much for having me.
yeah. Do you have any sort of funny stories that you'd like to
Ah,
share?
okay. Well, one of the things that also maybe I would tell you, there are many, but for me, it was maybe 96 before I got my diploma from the faculty. Fiona Griffiths, my tutor,
Mhm.
she and Nicholas Campin and Robert Hand, they came to Istanbul. Not for me, of course, but for because Istanbul is a very historical place, and they are
Yeah.
in history. Robert
Yeah.
Hand and Nicholas Campin, and but I was very lucky that uh, also Fiona Griffiths. I am very grateful to her, to Fiona Griffiths, and send my big heart to her again. She was very helpful, and uh, I know her sun in Cancer conjunct my Jupiter on in Cancer, so this kind of
Oh,
combination. So this
yeah.
is something astrological, but there is always a connection with my
Yeah.
teacher, I mean tutor. And then Fiona Griffiths had invited me into a dinner, also with Robert Hand and Nick Campion. And for that night, for me, I was not able to eat anything because I was so excited. I mean, I got my chart with myself. I was so ready to ask things to Rob Hand and Nick. And then, and I can't forget it because it is an anecdote that sets me into astrology more and more because
Yeah.
Rob Hand told me that, okay, you are going to be a certain figure of father of astrology in Turkey, which made me, you know, it is a too big statement, it is too
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
statement.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
even for now, I
Yeah.
can't handle it. But because by looking at my Saturn in my 10th house in Pisces.
Mm.
So, and then Nicholas Campion also further saying that, clearly remember, my Saturn conjunct with one of the difficult fixed stars, Sheat or
Yeah.
Shiat in
Yeah.
the end of Pisces.
Yeah.
So also he warned me that be careful not to be drawn in it, in this whole astrology stuff. I now later on, many after many years, then I can understand what Nick Campin also meant, because I am totally drawn in astrology. I mean, so it is one of the, for me, unforgettable anecdotes in my
Yeah.
life that I was able to connect these minds. Nick
Yeah.
Campin and
Yeah.
and Robert Penn is my king of astrology for
Yeah.
me. I'm sorry, but
Yeah. Yeah. That
always
would be like being with royalty, astrological royalty, isn't it?
yes, yes, yeah. So it is kind
Yeah.
of, also there is kind of, in other traditions, in Sufi tradition or any other work, you got something from your master. Always this
Yeah.
master and student relationship, an
Yeah.
important thing. I think now, of course, astrology become more technological, but in those years, this
Mhm.
one-to-one relations was
Yeah.
more important, more
Yeah.
evident, I would
Yeah.
say.
Oh, that's a great story. So before we finish, do you have any words of wisdom regarding the interesting astrological weather we're living through at the moment?
For that time, I mean, for the
No,
times that we are living,
for now,
generally,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, as I said, um I am a student of astrology, always see myself as a student of astrology, because even Michelangelo said that I am still learning. So
Yeah.
my motto, my word of wisdom is I'm still learning, and it is a life call for me, and this is why I don't. I mean, I see astrology a treasure,
Hmm.
that you can't buy anywhere, you
Hmm.
can't find, you can only find in yourself.
Yeah.
And we suffer a lot, of course. I mean, we learn suffer by suffering as well.
Yeah.
Though this suffering is also very important, and maybe I have Saturn in Pisces, but I would say I love my sufferings. In a way, in the end, if you put too much ego in
Mhm.
astrology, you lose the sight, the big picture.
Yeah.
Uh, I love this feeling, the universal aspect of astrology, very collective. I mean, you are you can be a very important individual,
Mhm.
but in the collective sense, again, we are nothing. I mean, so astrology teaches me and make me okay about myself when I go. If I go with my ego too much, then I would correct myself via astrology, and this means that I'm still learning.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I think often we learn more from what goes wrong than what goes right. That's
Yes,
where we learn
yes,
the lessons.
exactly,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
And every time something goes wrong, it does sort of take us away from that place of ego, perhaps. Yeah, because too much ego isn't healthy. But
It is again,
we need a healthy ego. Yeah.
yeah, healthy ego. Yes, sure. We need to healthy ego, but usually in the client work also we come across with people when Saturn goes in their 12th house. For
Yeah.
example, I have okay, one another anecdote for you. Uh, I uh, I still have this client, and she was quite prominent in her work. and then she was a top something, a big advertising company.
Mm.
And but she was going to have this Saturn transit in his 12th house, in her 12th house. And I, before this transit, I was talking about, and I was just trying to give some hints, some clues. What would it mean that transit Saturn in the 12th house? But she's a Capricorn woman.
Yeah,
Of course, not every Capricorn woman very ambitious, but she was not able to see the whole picture.
yeah.
And at that time, she began to have some problems in the board, in the company, and she began to make a battle with another woman
Hmm.
in the board. And unfortunately, probably there were some behind the scenes things that I don't know, but she had to leave the company, sadly. But the whole story again, she become more internalized. I mean, she of course it was not difficult for her to accept this new period. Later on, when Saturn went into the first house, she was able to understand what I was trying to say to her.
Yeah.
So this is maybe we were talking about this thing that too much ego. It's like I don't know how to say in English. It is this horse. Horses have this kind of things
Tunnel
in,
vision,
yeah,
blinkered
tunnel vision.
and blinkered. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So we have this, and then of course we are in this regard. I look at astrology a magical language,
yeah,
an art.
yeah.
Not needs to be a science. It doesn't need to be a science, of course, because it's a human side. I mean, more
Mm.
for me. Yes, there are numbers, but it's a synthesis of
Yes.
a tradition, but also our human creativity, I would
Yeah,
say.
yeah, yeah. Beautiful. Lovely words to finish with. Thank you so much for giving
I
this
thank you again.
your time, and I'm sure that will have inspired a lot of people. And if you've, helped someone be inspired starting their day,
Yes, 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 yes.
that's
These are the
wonderful.
moments that normally we may maybe ignite something in
Yes,
their life. Maybe I would be
yeah.
very happy. And also, thank you very much again, Leanne.
Thank you. You take care, and we'll speak very, very soon. Let me just stop the
Okay.
recording.